Hello everyone, welcome back to the SHM online learning platform. I'm Kirti Sharma. I'm working as an assistant professor in ST Andrews Institute of Technology and Management, Gurugram. Today in the lecture series of design and analysis of algorithms, we will discuss the next topics like job sequencing problem with deadlines and Huffman coding. Both of them depend on the greedy approach. So let's start with the job sequencing problem. Job sequencing. The sequencing of the jobs on a single processor with deadline constraint, or you can say some conditions are there, uh, which are having some deadlines, time restrictions, is called as the job sequencing with deadline, right? So there will be single processor or CPU, you can say, and lots of jobs are there, right? Or tasks, you can say, in the sequence to process by the processor, single processor, and each and every job having some deadline of time bound that we are considering here as a constraint or a condition. So that is known as the job sequencing with deadline. So what is there, like first you have a set of jobs that you want to execute on a single processor, and each job has a defined deadline and some profit associated with that job, right? And the profit of a job is given only when that job is completed within its deadline. So if it is not completed in the deadline, then the profit of the job is not provided, right? So only one processor is available for processing all the jobs. No multiple processors are there, and processor takes 1 unit of time to complete a job. So it's also mentioned here. You can also consider an example like multiple jobs are there, single CPU is there. If you will execute the job within the deadline, then it will give you the benefits of the execution, otherwise it will not give. Then also you can consider an example like if you are having a project and various employees are working under some restriction, like some time bounds are there, so some deadlines are there to complete that project, and that project is having this like some restrictions of the time foundation. If employees are not covering or not completing the module within the time limit whatever is given, so the benefits of for that particular project will not be given to the employees. So you can also correlate this thing as like that. So this particular topic that is based on the greedy approach is having its application in lots of world. Like if you're taking the employees and projects, then also its application, then processor, CPU, and various jobs or tasks, you can say, if you are assigning it various tasks in the to a single processor, then also its application is there. So you can take any of the example to get the clarity about this topic. So it doesn't matter, like if you are taking an example of the processor and tasks or jobs, you can say you are assigning to that processor. Either you can say like employees are there and projects are there, some modules are there with some deadlines, and employees have to complete those modules. So you can take anyone. Here I am taking the example for the CPU or single processor with lots of jobs or tasks assigned to the processor with some deadline constraints. So constraints means conditions, some deadlines are there to complete the task. Okay, so each of them having its profit and having its deadline. If the job is completed in the particular deadline at that but within the particular deadline that is given, then the profit of that job is given only, and only one processor is available for the processing all the jobs. No multiple processors are there. All the jobs will assign to the single processor only, right? And it will complete in 1 unit of time. So it was all about the introductory part. Next we have the problem statement here. What is the problem statement? How can the total profit be maximized if only one job can be completed at a time? Here one word is we are able to see like maximized. We have to focus on profit maximization. That means it's a optimization problem. Optimization problem, that means we can apply the greedy approach. So now we are clear like what kind of approach we have to follow mm, in order to solve out that particular algorithm of the uh, job sequencing problem? Yes, because optimization problem is there. Maximization, we are talking about maximization of the profit. Then it is an optimization problem, and we can solve the optimization problem with the help of greedy approach, right? So next, this one is a problem statement. Now how we can solve that statement, this problem approach is, first we have to find out the feasible solution. There are lots of solution that could be possible for the problem, for a single problem that we already know, right? On from those solutions we need to find out the feasible solution. That means the solutions which are satisfying the constraint itself. Constraints means condition that is in front of the problem. Like, if solution is satisfying the constraint, then it's a feasible solution for that particular problem. So feasible solution would be a subset of jobs where each job of the subset gets completed within its deadline, right? And the value of the feasible solution would be sum of the profit of all the jobs contained in the subset. So that will be the value of the feasible solution. Now, what about the optimal solution? Among those feasible solution, more than one feasible solution is also possible, that we know. Now, among those all the feasible solution, we have to find out the optimal solution. And optimal solution of the problem would be a feasible solution also, because we are taking it as a subset, like these are the feasible solution, that this one is the optimal solution. So which gives the maximum profit among all the feasible solution, which gives the maximum profit, that is known as the optimized or optimal solution of the problem. Now it is like, it's compulsory only single optimal solution will be there among all the feasible solutions. Okay, so lots of feasible solution may be possible, but optimal solution will be one that belongs to the feasible solution itself. Okay, so in order to get the maximum profit from the jobs, so like greedy algorithm, what it says actually, greedy algorithm is adopted to determine how the next job is selected for an optimal solution. Like, lots of feasible solutions are there, and we have to select one optimal solution. So in order to get the one optimal solution, how the next job is selected, like job 1 is selected, next job is selected, so among all the remaining jobs, how we can select the next job, that is depends on the greedy algorithm. The greedy algorithm also describes, like below, always gives an optimal solution to the sequence problem. So we have some steps here in order to provide the solution. First step is, you have to sort all the given jobs in the decreasing order of their profits. All the jobs having some profits, and you have to assign all the jobs in the decreasing order of their profits. And next step, now check the value of the maximum deadline. Like, what is the value of the maximum deadline? Check it out and draw the Gantt chart, and where maximum time on the Gantt chart is the value of the maximum deadline. Okay, and in the next step, now you have to pick up the jobs one by one. Like, put the job on the Gantt chart, and as far as possible from zero, ensuring that job gets completed before its deadline. Otherwise, we will not consider it. Okay, so make sure like job is completed in the like given deadline, before the deadline. Okay, next step is, like if you have a problem, like, oh, we have to implement it with the help of some example. So here there is a problem of the job sequencing. Some jobs are given here, 6 jobs are given here with some deadlines. These are the deadlines given to the job, all 6 jobs, and these are the profits with respect to each job. So we have to find out the answer of these questions. We have to find out the optimal schedule that gives you the maximum profit. And we have to check, like, are all the jobs completed in the optimal schedule or not. Then what is if yes, then what is the maximum earned profit by the jobs. So we have the solution here. Step 1, the first step is saying, like, we have to sort all the jobs in a decreasing order of their profits. So these are the jobs, these are the profits, so we have to sort it in the decreasing order. First we have to write the greatest one, that means J4. Yes, we have written the J4 here. Next we have written what? After 300, what do we have here? 200. That means J1. J1 is written here. Next what we have? After J1, J3 is there. Then J2 is there. J3 and J2, right. Next we have J5 and J6. J5 and J6. First step completed. We have written all the jobs in the decreasing order of their profits. Now what about the next step? Next step is you have to find out the value of maximum deadline. So what is the value of maximum deadline? This is the deadline portion. Maximum value of deadline is 5. If multiple jobs having the same deadline, you can take anyone, right? So maximum deadline is J1, having the J1 job, right? So J1 job, this one 5 is the maximum value of the deadline. Now how to draw a Gantt chart for the maximum time on the Gantt chart? 5 units that we know. So 0 to 5, we have made the 5 slots here. Next, now we take each of the job one by one, and in order they appear in the step 1, and we place the jobs on the Gantt chart as far as possible from 0, right? So what we have the first job as a J4. Now we have to assign the J4. Where we have to assign the J4? According to the deadline. What is the deadline of the J4? 2. That means 2 is the deadline. What it means? This true value, up to this true value, J4 must be completed. Like it should have to complete up to 2. So what it means? Worst position is like in the last step, in the last positions, it is able to find the solution for job 4. So since its deadline is 2, we place it in first empty cell before the deadline 2. This is the template 2, like deadline 2. Just before it, we have to assign the this value like job completion task. Next, what we have here? Next is J1. What is the deadline? 5 is. Now we take the in the next, like after J4, we need to take the J1 in order to insert. Since its deadline is 5, so we place it in the very first cell before the deadline 5. So this is the deadline 5, very first cell of the J. This is J1. We have inserted it. Next we have J3. So what is the deadline of J3 here? So we have already inserted here like J. We have already checked it out for the J1. The next J1 we have the 5 value. So first we have inserted J4, before 2 we have inserted. Next we have inserted 5, J1 before just 5. Next we have J3, 3 before 3, just before 3 we have to assign, like this is the 3, here we have to assign the J3. Here you have to assign the J2. Next you can assign this one is right now. So J1, J3 is there. J1, J3 is there, right? So up to now we have covered 3 jobs. Next what we have? Next is J2. J2 and J5. What about the J2 and J5? J2 is having 3 and J5 has a 4. So J2, yeah, what we have here? J3. So deadline is 3. Just before 3 we have written the J3. Now next what we have here? J2 we have aligned here. Yes. Next we have J5. J5 we have assigned here. Just before the deadline we have to assign that job. That is the main theme here, right? After completion all the jobs, now only job left is job 6, whose deadline is 2. All the slots before deadline are already occupied. That means job 6 cannot be completed. That means job 6 is not completed within the deadline. Now the given question you can answer like part 1, what could be the optimal solution? J2, J4, J3, J5, J1. This is the maximum, like this is a sequence in which you can get the maximum order. J2, J4, J3, J5 and J1. It's all depends on the deadline. So this is the required order in which the job must be completed in order to obtain the maximum profit. Next is all the jobs are not completed because G6 is left, because all the slots are completed within it was not able to complete within the deadline. That is the problem. Now how much it earned, like sequence we have seen already. Then problem with this, like it is not all the jobs are not completed in the optimal solution. The next is maximum earned profit. 3 steps are there, 3 steps answer is there. Like maximum earned profit is sum of profits of all the jobs in a optimal solution. Profit of job J2, that is written in the first flow. Profit of job J2, profit of job J4, and so on. So what is the profit of job J2? First we have covered what? First we have covered J2 now. So what is the profit of J2? Profit of J2, first we have covered J2 is 180, right? So we have mentioned here 180. Next, profit of J4. Why we have taken J4? Next is sequence, in the sequence J4 is here. So we have mentioned J4, and with respect to the J4, what is the profit that we have mentioned here? In the same manner, you can write each and everything, and at last, after the sum of all the 5 values or units, you will get the answer. It may possible like multiple, make a note of this thing, multiple feasible solution could be possible, but optimal solution will remain. 990 units is the maximum earned profit by the sequence of the jobs that we are having. Maximum profit that earned by the jobs in order to execute on a single processor. Now it was all about the job sequencing with greedy method with some deadlines. Next is we have Huffman coding. It's a very interesting topic. It also depends on the greedy algorithm. Here, this application of the Huffman coding is it is used to for the lossless compression of the data. In compression of the data, we use this particular technique, and it uses a variable length encoding. So it assigns the variable length code to all the characters. It assigns the variable length code to all the characters, whatever are included in the data. First thing, it is used for the lossless compression of the data. Then length encoding, and whatever we have as all the characters, variable length code we have to assign. So the code length of the character depends on how frequently it occurs in a given text. So you can check it out with the help of Huffman coding technique, greedy approach. The characters which occurs most frequently gets the smallest code, and the character which occurs least frequently gets the largest code. So it's also known as Huffman encoding. These all are this content is covering all the introductory part of the Huffman coding with this application, how we can use it, for what purpose we can use this particular technique. So Huffman coding having the prefix rule. Some rules are there. Huffman coding implements a rule that is known as prefix rule, and this is used to prevent the ambiguities while decoding, like encoding and decoding of the data compression. To prevent the ambiguities, we can use this particular technique, and it ensures that the code assigned to any character is not a prefix of the code assigned to any other character, right? So what are the major steps here in the Huffman coding? There are two major steps actually. First, building a Huffman tree from the input characters, whatever we have, and next is assigning the code to these characters by traversing the Huffman tree. So these are the two major steps that should be followed by each and every set of input characters. So let's start with an example to get the better clarity step by step manner. Some steps are involved here in order to build Huffman tree. First one is there is a need to create the leaf nodes of each and every characters that we have in a text as an input, and leaf nodes of the characters contains the occurring of the frequency, like frequency of the characters that are occurring. So in the next step we have to arrange all the nodes in the increasing order of their frequency values. Whatever is the frequency values, we need to arrange all the nodes in the increasing order. In the next step, we have to consider first two nodes that having the minimum frequency, and then create a new internal node, and the frequency of this new node is the sum of the frequency of those two nodes. So make the first node as a left child, and other node as a right child of the newly created node. So it's the important point regarding the Huffman coding in construction part. Okay, so these are the steps that are involved here, and last one step is you have to repeat the step 2 and 3 until all the nodes form a single tree. So tree is finally obtained in the form of desired Huffman tree. So what could be the time complexity here for that particular algorithm or of the Huffman coding technique? In order to extract the mean, there is it's called a twice of n minus 1 times. If there is n nodes, and to as extract the mean, how many times you have to call the function mean heapify? It takes order of log n time. That is mean heap. Mean heap tree we have already discussed, like parent is always will remain minimum value comparative to the both of the child node. That is the mean heapify. So in order to build that heap or mean heapifying, there is a need of time is order of log n, that we have already discussed in the heap sort. Same concept we have here. Thus, overall time complexity of the Huffman code will be order of n log n. Why is it so? Because log n is the time that is used into the finding out the minimum value of the parent each and every time, and n is the n is for the n number of nodes, because you need to traverse each and every node in the tree. So overall time complexity of the Huffman coding will be big of n log n, and n is the number of unique characters. Characters should not you repeat here, unique characters in the given text, right? So it was all about the introductory part of the Huffman coding. Next we have an example, and before example we have some important formulas here. Two formulas that we have to use most frequently in order to find the average code length per character. Like you have to write the summation of all the frequency of chord length divided by all sum of frequencies. So probabilities that are for which we have the chances to occur, and the chord length of the characters that we have. And next formula is saying like you have to find out total number of bits in the Huffman encode message. If you're encoding messages with the help of Huffman encoding technique, then there must be a count of the bits. So total number of characters in the message multiplied by average chord length per character is equals to summation of frequency multiplied by chord length. So we have to do the sum of all these things in order to get the total number of bits in Huffman encoding message. So these two are very important formulas that we can use further. So there is a problem to get the better clarity over here, in which that is like some characters with some frequencies given here this in this table. If the Huffman coding is used for the data compression, then Huffman code for correct you have to determine Huffman code for each and every character, and that will be used again and again repeatedly. Whenever you required, it will be reused again. So average code length of the Huffman encode messages will be there, right? So these are the problems here. Next, what we have as a solution, some steps you have to solve. First thing, you have to write all the characters as a leaf node. So we have written like TOUAISE. So all the characters we have written there in the increasing order, 1 3 4 10, and with respect to this increasing order we have mentioned here the alphabets or characters with like as shown here in the tabular form. Next thing, what we have to do now, we have to combine like what are the minimum one, T and O having the minimum frequency like 1 and 3. Now combine it and add it. What is the value? 3 plus 1 will be 4 will be value. Now what is the list values? 4 4. Now combine all these values and you will get 8. If I will dictate it directly, it may create confusion to you. So this is better approach to get clarity. Next we have 10. So next it according to the theme what we have the list values here 8 10 uh, 8 10, that will become 18. Next 18 20, 12 30 30 13 43 43 15 58. So it was all about the step by step construction of the tree. See here 8 is there, then 8 plus 10 18 is there, 18 plus 12 30 is there, 8 plus 10 30 is there. Now listen to here, like we have to focus on one more thing. 8 and 10 is given here. So what we have to do here, like 18 is greater than all these remaining values, whatever is assigned here, 12, 13, 15. So here we have to stop in order to execute with the true childs. 18 is up to now, left child is left smaller than the right one. Now this left one is become the greater and this one become the smaller. Now we have to change the direction, so we have to put all these values on the left hand side of the 18. So we have putted it. Now 15 is there. Again take the least value. Do not, no need to add 15 18 now onwards. Now you need to add the 12 and 15. Always trace the least values in the tree in order to add the values. So 12 plus 13 will be 25. Now add, what about the 25? 25 is greater than the 15, so he will not it will not be added into directly into it. So what we have to do, like this 18 is there, 8 is there, 4, 10, up to now we have arranged all the things, these three things. Then now what we have to do with this 15 frequency of E, now we have to put it on the left hand side of the 18, and 25 is greater than, so put it on the right hand side, this complete part. Now we are arranging the things in a defined way or in a particular format that we know already, right? So here, now you can combine the least two values. Least two values are 15 and 8, not 18, 25. 15 and 18. Now combine these 15 and 18, 33 you will get. Now again replace it. This part is smaller than the 33. It will come on the left hand side again. And again you have to combine two list values at the parent level. So 25 and 33. Now you have to assign, right? So it was all about the Huffman coding. So it's a 58 here. So this is Huffman tree. Now we have to assign the coding encoding values in the form of 0 and 1. Left edge of the tree will consist of 0 bit, and it will be inserted with the right edge to the 1. So rules are there. Assign the 0 to the left edge and right to the right edge, 1 as a right edge. So 1, any of the above two conventions may be followed, like either you can write 0 at the left and 1 at the right, or 1 at the left or 0 at the right. It's up to the user. So but following some convention at the end of the recording, so that is adapted by at the time of encoding itself, because encoding decoding both are needs one after one another. So that is the approach that you can use during the decoding and encoding of the alphabets or data compression, during the data compression. Okay, so this was the Huffman tree. We have aligned 0 to the left and 1 is the right, each and every node. This one is the left of this 58, aligned 0. This one is the right 1, left 0, right 1, left 0, right 1, left 0, right 1, left 0, right 1. If furthermore elements also will be there and it will be on the right hand side, it will be considered, but with the like right hand side 1 only. There is no any 0 here. It may also possible 0 will be there, 1 is not, may not be there. So it's up to the question that is given to you, right? So what about the next here? After applying the weight to the edges, now we have to assign the decoded forms or values, binary values to the characters. So what next, first one is A. So what about the A in this particular tree? Where is A? A is this place, right? So from parent node, like root node, what amount of like how many bits it have to cover? 1 bit, yes, for the one time you have access. Next 33 to 18 is 1, and this is also 1. To reach from this to this, 3 edges we have to cover with the weight 111 to reach up to A. So 3 binary digits 111 triple one will become the code or binary code or encoded code for the A. We can directly use this 111 at the place of A itself now onwards. So E is also another element. So what about E? We have to write for each and every one this code. Where is E? E is present here. So 1 0 1 0. Yes, right. Now what about I? You can do also practice for the same. I is, where is I? Where is I? This is I. 0 0 0 0 is the answer. Yes. Next is O. Where is O? This one is O. Right? Wait. This one is O. What about the root 1 1 0 0 1. So 1 1 0 0 1 is the right node parameter. So what about the like each and every element or character alphabet having some values, and by solving those we are getting the frequencies, like how many times it's occurring, and 0 and 1 we are assigning, and encoding code we have given to the alphabets that we have used. So from here we can observe that characters occurring with the less frequently in the text are assigned the larger code. So like O T, so O and T are like the alphabets we are occurring in the less comparatively to the others, right? So as it is shown in the example also, we have already covered these things. You can do the cross check also. So what about the average code length? Average code length उसमें 10 into 3, like we have to write the frequency chord into code divided by sum of frequencies, all the frequencies. So what is the frequency of the first element, first letter is 10, and what is the code length is there 3 bits. So what was A is the first character, 3 is the bits that we have used. So frequency that is used, that is given in the question is 10, and 3 is the, here 3 is used as a code length. 1 1 1 3 ones are there. Next we have what, 15 is the frequency, 2 is the chord length. For what, for E. Again for I, 2 is the chord length and 12 is the frequency that is given. Frequencies are given here in the question itself, and here chord length we are trying to find it out with our like I have done. So we have already seen this thing here, like according to the characters we have seen the number of bits and frequency that is given in the questions. After doing the sum, we have to divide all the frequencies, divide the things with the sum of the frequencies, and after all we will get here 2.52 as the answer, average chord length. Next, length of the Huffman and chord masses is, again we have to use the formula 2. In first approach we have used the formula 1, here you have used the formula 2. You can use them individually. So total number of bits in human encoded masses, so total number of characters in masses x, average code length per character is 58, is the complete total length that you have clear, no, 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 no. 58 is the total number of characters that we have already seen in as a root node of the tree, and 2.5 to the average code length per character that we have calculated recently, and after multiplication we are getting here for 146.16, that is approx 147 bits. So it was all about like how to find the length of the Huffman and chord masses, right? So I hope it's clear. We have covered the job sequencing with deadline and Huffman coding with the help of greedy algorithm. So in the next lecture we will discuss the minimum spanning tree, in which we will also discuss the algorithms Prim's and Kruskal's algorithm. So stay tuned with the lecture series. Thank you. Have a nice day.